Good afternoon, everyone. We're excited for you to be joining us today for our 14th Growth Hour webinar from Shed Advisor about how to convert more shed leads in less time. My name is Rebecca Bradley Ray, and I will be your moderator for today. If you have any comments or questions throughout the webinar, please go ahead and feel free to enter them in the chat box at any time. We'll have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. So for those of you on the phone, you can just unmute and ask us directly at that time. But now let me introduce our host for today. Steve Byler is a certified speaker and coach with Maxwell Leadership and a certified EOS implementer who assists leaders and leadership teams in getting clear with their vision in order to get more of what they really want from their business. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Rebecca, and welcome back from the French Riviera to the Arctic Virginia. And delighted to have Joe with us today from Velocity 360 in the more moderate climate of Tennessee. So Joe is a system builder for Shed and Steel. He's the founder and CEO of Velocity 360, dedicated to helping people reach their true potential, believing that when local businesses win, the community wins. And I love that line, Joe. I think businesses are one of the keystones of local communities, and they hold a lot of influence on the flourishing of local communities. So Joe has logged over 10,000 hours in frontline sales. He built his career in the trenches, achieving a remarkable 53% door-to-door sit-down rate and a 35% close rate. He personally recruited and trained 43 reps, experience which led to his AI-powered systems today. So he specializes now in helping shed and steel building businesses convert more leads in less time with his industry-specific sales CRM solution. Since the Shed Expo, Velocity 360 is now used on over 100 lots with 20 plus shed companies. As the author of The Problem with Potential, Joe provides the blueprints for scaling success. He's a family man supported by his wonderful wife and 18-month-old daughter. Welcome, Joe. Delighted to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was a great intro.
Well, it sounds like you've got a little bit of sales experience under your belt, and it always helps before you jump into the world of technology to try to support the sales process. So we toss this little acronym around, and most anybody, pardon me, in sales has heard of a CRM. Tell me in a nutshell, what in the world is a CRM?
Yeah, CRM, generally just stands for customer relationship management system. And CRMs are as simple, like everybody has one. They've got a place to keep track of their customers. Some people do it on paper, which I think most people know nowadays is not the most efficient way to do it. Some people have Excel sheets where they just have lists of contact info and maybe what they bought or whatever, which again is another way to organize your customer relationships, right? So and in 2025, 2026, just around the corner, good CRMs should be driving revenue for you, doing work for your sales team, following up with leads, automating your analytics, helping you make better decisions on your sales process, and essentially convert more leads in less time. That's my belief. That's how we like to set it up for people. And generally, if leads feel like they go into a black hole, or you only follow up with leads a couple times before saying, well, they must not be interested, or if you don't get to every lead within 60 seconds, there's a lot of revenue on the table. And a good CRM is amplifying the best parts about your people and your relationship building with your clients and minimizing the room for error, and missed follow-up, for example. And if you get those things right, you get more responses and more sales.
Yeah, so is it fair to say that a good CRM helps you know who your customer is, see what your sales reality actually is, and then execute consistently on the strategy you have for your sales?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's designed to help you maximize what you're doing. If you don't have a sales process and you're missing some pieces like that, then that's probably step one. Kind of once you have a
Yeah.
process and you're getting leads, if you have, generally leads coming in, you're doing really well. A litmus test I like to ask people or give people are the following few questions. And if your answer is no to this, you need to probably take a look at the system, and I'd be happy to chat. We do free sales system audits, and I'll have a link and some different things to share at some point if People just want to chat through like
Yeah.
what are they missing? The litmus test
Y-
is this. Do you get to every lead within 60 seconds or less? If the answer is no, which for most people I talk to is it's a no. Um, if you were to do that, it increases your closing percentage by 381%. Um,
Yeah.
do you follow up with, and Steve, you look like you're trying to point me in a different direction than what I'm going
No,
in.
no, keep going. Keep
Okay,
going. I just have a lot to say too, but yours is actually more valuable right now. So you keep going.
I'm sure what you're about to say is also greatly valuable. But if you basically, if you don't, do you follow up with every lead at least 14 times, even if unresponsive? And everyone's answer to that's usually no. Do you automatically request reviews from your clients after they've, finished the sales process? The answer is usually no. And, from those basic three questions, usually you could figure that there's a lot of revenue on the table.
Right.
And
Just like a lot of um, software solutions these days, people were good at these things in their roles before the tools became available. They just lived inside their heads, right? They knew their customer. They had a disciplined process that they executed on with great skill, drove revenue. But that model really isn't scalable. So that's where we start documenting our sales process, getting crystal clear on that so it can be shared by multiple people. We start bringing tools to it to be sure there's no pieces falling through the cracks, and also to bring transparency to the process, especially when you have multiple contributors, for the managers, for leaders of sales processes to be able to see what's happening throughout the entire company on one simple dashboard. So software really accelerates the human genius in the sales process because not everybody's great. So I'm just curious, do you think a great CRM can actually take a mediocre sales rep and make them pretty good?
yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the biggest fallouts for most salespeople, in systems. I mean, systems generally that a lot of systems don't even have a script that they follow or
Right.
a general process, right? So there's some gaping holes there. And it's okay if you don't have that and you're still doing well, that's great. All it means is that there's a lot of revenue on the table, right?
A lot of
Because
opportunity,
yeah, there's a
a
lot of
lot of
opportunity. So it's not
missed
like
opportunity.
it's not wrong, right? If you don't have a sales script and you guys are doing well, which I work with lots of companies, been in business 30 years, they've got great revenue, right? They're doing great.
Yeah.
But their conversion rate could be 100%, 200% better. And that would just mean their revenue goes up a lot substantially. And so,
Yeah.
some problems maybe aren't the biggest pain. Like a big pain problem is I'm losing I can't see where my leads are. I can't call people. I don't, that's like a big pain that really, begets action. But the pain of there's revenue on the table, we're still doing well, is more of a vitamin feel, right? So,
Yeah.
but
That's where
both
the
are still
CEO should
worthy.
get,
That's
yeah, the
right.
CEO should get dialed up over that one, right?
Yeah, that's right. The CEO gets dialed up because it's just a math. Business is a math problem, right? There's a human
That's right.
component to business, which is the relationships and trust, and then there's a conversion, a revenue side of business, a number side of business, right? And a systems side of business that software kind of lives in. And so you've got to work, train your people, and treat your people, your clients really well. And so systems helps ensure that happens all the time. It's really a quality control, mechanism at the end of the day. Because in reality, every shed business owner I work with, they're generally a Christian. They care about people. They employ locals. They give to their local church or charity. And so when we help their business convert more leads in less time, convert more revenue, they're just giving back to their community in better ways. And I love seeing that happen. And the things that hold them back essentially is like a software or quality control. Like I don't have visibility on my sales reps' phone calls. Did they follow up with a lead? Did they text
Yeah.
somebody back, right? Did that lead get entered in the system or does it just never going to get followed up with? Because all of these people are such great-hearted, business owners that what they want to do is intentionally talk to everybody, but you can't. You start having
Yeah.
hundreds to thousands of leads per month, depending on the size and how many lots you have. You just individually have a limit of time. But what you want to do is how do we package the best parts of how you started your business so every sales rep makes every client lead feel, why you do business, which is essentially to help solve their problem and build a better world, right? Make the community a
Yeah.
better place.
Yeah.
And that's what you're trying to do. And that's not often the way it's described. It's always just revenue growth or whatever. But anyway, that's kind of what we're really trying to do.
Yeah. Well, revenue, scope of revenue, and really of net profits determines the scope of your impact for the mission that you're
Right.
truly on.
Exactly. Exactly. That's right.
And so we really want to optimize people's revenue and profits around what they actually want for their business. Not everybody wants a huge business. We want to help optimize that because that's really the fuel for the impact of the mission that you're on. So I'm curious, before we start talking about more details around CRMs, what problems do business owners, what problems are they facing when they come and talk to you about CRMs? Probably many of them already have one.
Yeah, there's a couple groups, right? So you have the I have no CRM or I have a glorified Excel sheet, group
Yeah,
of
which I
people.
told you is
Uh,
exactly where we started.
that's right. That's
Started
right. Which
with
is normal.
spreadsheets in a Dropbox folder,
Right.
that rolled up into another big spreadsheet
Right.
so I could at least see what was happening through the company
Right. That's
if
right.
people put the data in,
That's right. If, a lot of human error options there. And then
yeah,
you have people who, are using HubSpot or something or Pipedrive, whatever. A lot of people use HubSpot, I think. Generally speaking, at least that we've converted some from. So, if you have a glorified Excel sheet, the problems I hear is like black hole. Like we don't know where
yeah,
things go. Like I'll ask, how many leads do you get per month? There's no way to know. It's hard. It's a very arduous process. We've got to look up 12, log in, three play, whatever, try to figure it out. Um, Regardless of which camp you're in, there's almost always a phone system. I don't have good visibility. I
yeah,
can't see the text messages. There's always a problem of all my leads aren't in the same place most of the time. There's a problem of my leads don't auto assign to the right people, right?
yeah,
Nobody gets to their leads within 60 seconds. No one follows up with 14 times. And that follow up to 14 times is the average person takes 7 touch points to actually start a conversation. So it's a numbers game.
right,
So if you're only
yeah,
doing a few
yeah,
times, you're just not maximizing response rates. Um, People aren't doing the reviews. Reviews don't link. A lot of people have like 6 softwares to do things that like our CRM does. That's like wasted cost. It's confusing. My people aren't techie. I mean, I hear all types of things like that. Most of the people we work with are great at their business. They're great at building the shed or the operations. Delivery is usually great, right? Whatever. But there's too much going on, not enough time to build a software. It's like getting a master's degree in software is like not the thing, right? Like that's not
right,
the best
right.
ROI on time. And
We're not really
so,
interested in that. Really not
yeah, they're
interested in that. Just
they're
want to build more sheds.
that's right. So they're trying to a lot of them are trying to set up a software where it's not their main thing. They don't do it every day. It's a steep learning curve to understand automation logic and to get all your leads in the same place and do an API integration, which again, if you're hearing that on this for the first time, you're like, that sounds complicated. It kind of is. You're technically sending something called a JSON, essentially signal. JSON's like a coding language, right? So
Right.
even just that, like, I don't want to go too far deep because it's just like,
Yeah.
that's too much. And so, but all of that getting done, you know, can result in a massive revenue growth and it's worth doing. It's just people don't know how to do it. And they don't,
Yeah.
and then the big companies like HubSpot or whatever, they charge a lot just for a subscription and they don't set anything up for you and they're over complicated. Your sales rep just needs to find where messages are, have help following up to get the response, be notified, you have visibility, and they need to close. And they need to know which of your ads are best closing percentage. That's it. If you know
Right.
that, you can scale your company.
Right.
Everything else, it's just a bunch of stuff. And this is what I tell people. People will come with different problems or whatever, but if revenue conversion is not the most important thing, it's like what's more important than that, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess if you're not at the point where you don't have a quality product, I guess you need to do right. There are things that are more important if you're trying to scale, right? Because if you don't have a quality product and they're just being blown over by a 10-mile-hour gust of wind, like you have bigger problems than sales because your business will have
Correct.
a bad reputation and there's nothing you can do. But
Yeah. And
you
let's
get the
let's
idea.
be honest. There's a couple major functions every business has. And I'll just put my EOS hat on for a bit. Sales and marketing is one of those because in a business, nothing happens till somebody sells something.
Right.
But then you have the whole production operations side where you have to produce or deliver your goods or services. And if you're not excellent at that, you can sell everything you want, but your production's is going to collapse. And then you've
Yeah.
got to have a good finance and admin side as well, where the data that's tracking the activities in both of those other functions actually allows you to run a great business. So all three of them are important. Really your operational side, your data tracking finance side, and your sales and marketing side. But what I'm finding in my conversations with shed companies, across the United States, is that right now in 2025, 2026, the number one challenge is not how can I build more sheds? The number one challenge is I'm spending money on marketing. And because it's been a little bit softer, I'm spending more money on marketing. And I don't know what's working. I don't know what's working. And I'm not sure that I'm getting what I need from the money I'm spending on marketing because it doesn't seem to be pushing through the pipeline. And I have no way of knowing if I spend another, $500 a month with Facebook or $2,000 a month with Google Ads or SEO investment. I have no way of knowing if that was a great investment or not, which one I dial up. And so I just hear a lot of that. They're relatively new and to be honest, um, kind of newbies in the whole sales and marketing space, trusting a firm to bring them leads. Okay, salespeople, the number one complaint is the leads I get are trash. Well, either that's true or their sales process is rubbish and or not being executed on, right? That's kind of where it boils down. But you don't know that until you get a clear
Right,
process with
right.
transparency and accountability
That's right.
inside it.
You
So
won't actually
you
know
help this
unless.
problem. You can help this problem, right?
Yes. Yeah. Can I share my screen?
So
I took two
let's,
specific screenshots because I figured this would come up
yeah.
for one of our
Okay.
clients' dashboards.
And I think
I can
um
share. I'll just hit.
share away. Let's see. I think I gave you
Yeah.
the permissions.
Let's see. There's two previews here. I guess I'll do the full screen here and we'll give that a whirl. This may not look super kosher, but so there's two things people are missing here. And this isn't our normal shed build. This is from a real client. I can't like disclose which client that is and all this stuff, but
Oh,
like
come
that's,
on.
you
That would
know,
be fun.
but I'll just run through. So we do a lead source report for every client. This is just their Facebook. There, you can see at the bottom right here, there's 3 pages. I didn't screenshot every page, but what people are missing is having all their leads in one place and auto tracking the conversion rate by ad. And if you have that, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that this ad should probably be discontinued and all of the
Yeah.
money should go into this style ad, right?
Yeah.
And if you just do that, you solve the problem you just mentioned. And so the way that we do that is we integrate with all of your different ad companies, Meta, Google, 3D Configurator, Shed, whatever it is. So all the leads are auto tracked and we can track the source and conversion rates. And how we got in the industry was this particular client was using Shed Pro actually. And it was like 3 to 12 times higher close rate for a Shed Pro lead compared to the Meta ads they were running. We said, you should triple your budget with them. You'll sell a lot more. And they did. And we're like, Shed Pro, we should be friends. And then we started a partnership with Shed Pro where they'll send us sometimes some of their clients where it makes sense and we'll help them with conversion and everybody wins. The client
Yeah.
sells
Yeah.
more, the Shed Pro, stuff works better. We get a client, like it ends up win-win-win. And that's what we really believe in business, like it's all about. The second report that they're missing that auto tracks and velocity is the conversion rate between stages. The shed process is relatively simple. I mean, you get a lead, they need to be contacted. There's a few stages in between the quote, and then did they buy? You know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you need. And there's a few key areas that everyone needs to be tracking, and they're probably not, and that's okay. But if you can track this, this is why it matters. So if we look at this particular funnel, right, there's only 65% of the leads get contacted.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't take, again, a rocket science to be like, well, what's the big thing for this month for the sales team? Contact the leads.
Yeah.
If we go into here, here's the good things. This is with the Velocity 360 workflows that auto follows up on first response, follows up 14 times, etc., which we'll go over here once we get to the presentation. They have a 74% first response rate of the leads that they do contact. which is absurd. You know,
That's phenomenal. Yeah.
it's super high. And most people don't know this number. And if you don't know this number,
Right.
you really don't know if you're working your leads well.
Right.
Because this is in a shed industry, probably running a shed business running leads just like you are,
Yeah.
which means it's possible to give 75% of people respond. So if you're getting 25%, you have 50% of those leads on the table if you
Yeah. And
know how to work those.
I'm hearing stories, of clients that
Right.
clients of shed companies that only are able to contact 20% of the
Right.
leads that come in.
Right.
And and that's where the junk leads thing
Right.
comes up. They're just junk leads. Well, no, somebody actually did an activity
Right.
around a message for
Right.
sheds. We
Yeah.
don't go around just clicking on stuff for fun on the website typically.
Right.
Usually we're at least a market qualified lead
Right.
when we submit our information.
Right. So when I sold books door to door, I used to sell some Bible books, educational stuff. Great experience. I did 7 years of it. And I would go work an area and I would sell, I have a top 0.1% sales season. And you could put a different person in the same area and they would not sell anything. And so it's not the leads. It's really important. This is
Right.
hard for people to
Right.
hear. It's
Right.
just not the leads. Now, listen, if it's a robot filling out a form on Meta, which does happen, that's not a
Yeah.
lead. That's not a lead. That's a
Right.
robot, right? So if it's a lead, a real human submitting the thing, it is a lead, okay? And then
Yeah.
it really comes down to sales process and sales personnel
That's right. That's right.
at the end of the day. So if they don't convert, listen, some people say no. Every sales situation is a deck of cards, right? So the aces are yeses always. It doesn't matter. You could be the worst salesperson. They're ready to buy. They've got their wallet out. Okay. Then you
Yeah.
have
As
face
long as you got a
cards.
credit machine, you'll get their money.
That's right. There's face cards, which is skill based. The kings, the queens, the jacks. If you're a good salesperson, they convert. Okay. The
Yeah.
jacks are harder than the kings, right? But that's why there's top producers. The numbers cards, nobody could convert no matter what. They're just going to tell you no, and they're going to tire kick or whatever. And that's fine, but you just have to get them to flip over. That's all you're trying to
Right.
do in sales. You're
Right.
just trying to get them to flip over. Are you an ace? Are you a face card? Are you a number? Yes,
Yeah.
yes, no, yes or no. Like, where are you at? It doesn't matter one way or the other. I'm going to treat you well. I'm going to make you feel good. You're not a used car salesperson. That's not how you should sell. But you're just
Right.
trying to get a yes or a no, one way or the other. And so that's what you're trying to do here. Okay. So for example, again, this next area that they should work on, 23% of the leads move to warm lead communicating more than once. So the second best or the biggest thing, right, is to like, hey, you should probably maximize that. You should get that up to
Yeah.
where most of these leads get followed up with better. And when you
Yeah.
go in there, you can actually see in velocity that a lead was not called or not
Yeah.
texted. And you know specifically which salesperson did not do the thing, which is very
Right.
helpful as a business
Yeah.
owner to go train them better and help
Right.
them, and at the very least to have a difficult conversation like, hey, if you don't start calling these leads, I'm going to give them to somebody else. They'll start
Right.
calling them real quick
Right.
and they'll
Yeah.
sell more and they'll get more commissions and the revenue will go up and everybody wins in that scenario,
That's
right?
right.
Everybody wins in that scenario if you have the visibility, right? So anyway, you can see their close rates actually quite good, 65% from quotes win, and once they get them a quote, like 82% of these people, right, that respond more than once get a quote.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
That's huge.
So you have two
So if
bad
we have
news snippets. Yeah,
multiple conversations with a lead,
they're going to
we can
basically buy.
they're going to get a quote and 65% gets closed. Yeah.
That's right. And so if you have these are all the numbers you really need. If you have these numbers and then which marketing avenues lead to the highest close rates, you optimize those two things. Again, your revenue shoots up a lot. And
Yeah. And so just to take this back all the way to kind of where we started, every company, every sales rep has a sales pipeline. A lot of them don't have the data and transparency into their sales pipeline
that's right.
to be able to make the decisions or to be managed by a sales manager to drive success with their pipeline. So even they may not even have a great process for the pipeline. So we always have to start with what is our sales strategy? What is the process, right? And then what are the tools now that can help bring transparency to that entire pipeline? So we execute with discipline. And we
Right.
want a CEO wants a couple of measurables from the sales team. The sales manager wants to host more data. but we need transparency into the actual activities that are driving revenue. So those
Right.
can be dialed up. And
Right.
only what you measure can you actually manage.
That's
So,
right.
and that's just one of the key mantras that we've got to keep driving down, into all aspects of our company. You can't
Yeah.
manage what you can't measure.
That's right. Yeah. And the sales process for sheds is not overly complicated. You have a
No, it's not.
conversation, you figure out what they need, you follow up
Yeah.
until they tell you yes or no, and you never stop following up until they tell you yes or no. And you're very polite and you're very caring and you send them pictures and you help them with a 3D configurator. I mean, there's only a few
Yeah.
ways it can go. They're
Yeah.
going to buy from you if the quality and the pricing match, right? The value matches the price and they
And
like
they
you.
like you.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like and trust. Do they have a need? They fill out a form. They're going to buy a shed. Are they going to buy it with you or not? Is your culture of how you sell attractive enough that they're like, this is for me? That's basically all the sales process is. And
Yeah.
then just optimizing that to, again, if you're trying to scale multiple lots or optimizing the quality at your single lot or as a manufacturer and having those standards or whatever it is, because if you have the quality across your organization, you'll be maximizing conversion, which again, that revenue leads to giving to church, giving to charity, hiring another local person, so on and so forth. And that cycle continues. And that's why we're excited about helping people get their revenue higher.
Yeah. Fantastic. So I have, and you mentioned a few of them. I've seen quite a number of CRMs in my lifetime. Um, and I don't claim to be on top of all the CRMs that are out there today, but I do know a lot that people are using. And, when we had a conversation around what you're doing with Velocity 360, you really bring a lot of those pieces together, including some of the cutting edge technology and how AI plays into this space. So why don't you go ahead and jump in, just share your screen and show us a bit of a snapshot of what you're actually doing.
Yeah. I'm going to run through essentially our shed build that got us into the industry. So it's the actual shed build that helped our first client, Secure Storage Sheds, grow 167% of revenue in 6 months. It doubled their sales conversion in 9 months, so 100% increase. And I'm just going to kind of walk through the main ideas of the workflows. That's usually what people get or need the most of. And that usually helps people understand like, oh, wow, that's basically what we need, like you need. And so let me run through that, and then that should cover us pretty good there. So does this look good on your screen there, Steve?
It does. Yeah.
Perfect. So um, this is our shed specific build. Again, the basic problem is that we have salespeople who get distracted by being disorganized or they're busy and they can't follow up to leads, right? So following up with leads is the main thing we need to do. Of course, all these business analytics and everything, but the follow-up is what leads to the revenue growth. The analytics helps you optimize the revenue, right? So those are the two pieces. So with no follow-up, you can at least tell there's no follow-up, but those are clearly things that you need to fix, right? So there's a video here that we had. So touch leads within 60 seconds, follow-up over 75 days, text, email, Facebook message back, right? All those types of things. So the boring part about the tech, which this is just a very high level, simple view that we like to build for people that people usually are not aware of or don't know how it impacts follow up. Okay. Is we want to set up something called SMTP email sending domain. Usually I'll say those letters and people are like, I don't know what that means. That's okay. I won't even go through the acronym. All it means is that you have specifically set your domain up, your email sending domain, to be trusted and go to the inbox more often than spam. So your open rates are higher and your click-through rates are higher. Okay. So most people don't have that set up. We like to do an A2P application. So you're legally allowed to text people. Okay. That's a very difficult application if you're new at it. But generally, if you don't have that, you actually, from a legal standpoint, you could be in a little bit of trouble
Yeah.
because you can't technically text people who are not opted in or have given consent from a business standpoint. So that insulates you a little bit on the risk side. The second thing is each sales rep needs a dedicated phone number. A lot of companies I work with do have a phone system where there's some dedicated numbers so they can track things, which is great. But usually it's not housed in the same place as notes for the lead or where the service
Right.
team can see something or the delivery
Right.
team can see what the conversation was about. and maybe there's some call recording, but maybe it can't send text messages, but it definitely can't send a Facebook message in the same place you text in the same place you call.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to have all of those within the same system on Velocity. And then in our phone numbers, like again, generally from an affordability standpoint, like $1.15, $1.21 per month. And it's a usage-based thing. It's like $20 a month if you send 1,500 texts or something or calls. Like it's usually people that's very helpful for them to get it, and they have all those benefits. You can then track again what each salesperson's doing. With the dedicated phone number, we have an AI tool that auto adds notes. So they have a phone conversation. It can pull out like the size of building, the budget they want, why they want to buy the building, their timeline, deadlines, whatever really the sales rep needs. And it just adds notes because we know salespeople, they don't want to touch it. They want to add
Yeah.
notes. They're not going to do it. So we have an
Yeah.
AI that does it for them, which they're so happy about. And the owner's so
Yeah.
happy
They
about. The
want they
service
want
team's
the
so,
information. Really
yes.
want the information.
Just don't want to type
Yes.
it and get on
Just don't want
their
to have to
phone
sit
or
there.
laptop or whatever. Right, exactly. Because that's not the best use of a salesperson's time. It's closing.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right. So then writing notes actually loses you revenue, even though you need the notes. So we have an AI that does it, right?
Yeah.
And then we want to have clear user permissions. Which leads get assigned to which people so people don't fight or double the work. Some people work the same lead unintentionally, whatever, right? So the user permissions, you can see the leads assigned to you. Get those auto assigned, okay? Then the other boring thing is getting all of your leads from wherever you get your leads, right, into the same place, into Velocity in this case. Your Shed Pro, your Shed Suite, your Sheds for Sale, your the Shed app, your Google, the Meta, the Idea Room, whatever you use. We want them in the same place, and we auto mark the source to track those conversion rates by source, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
you have to have that piece if you want to eventually get to return on ad spend.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. If you don't have this and they're in a bunch of places, you could manually go figure it out. But we all know if it's manual, you don't do it
Right.
because it's
That's right.
difficult. You do it maybe once a year, right? But you really need real-time data to maximize things. Because if you
That's
don't want
correct.
to wait 12 months, spend $30,000 on an ad that got you you were losing money the whole time. You want to pivot that at month one,
Yeah.
make you money. Okay, so here's when the workflows come in, right? So there's two really big ones that I've kind of alluded to. So one is like this promotional or like staying in touch of leads and past clients. So a marketing style campaign. And then there's the automated first contact. And the most important of these two, if you had to pick, would be getting to every lead within 60 seconds increases your closing percentage by 381%. This physically cannot happen if a salesperson's closing,
Right.
which is the most
That's right.
valuable thing that they could do. And so you have to have a system to help with this, to keep that lead from shopping. Because what happens is for most of these shed leads, they're on Facebook or Google, and they go to like 20 companies and send them a message to see who responds. They don't
That's
even
right.
remember where they messaged or who they called. And like, they have no idea. And so it's whoever follows up best is going to get that lead the most for conversion. If you're a
Yeah,
quick
and
response,
I wish you could just say that over and over and over and over because I see that as one of the biggest challenges right now, especially in companies that are relatively new in the selling space.
right,
It's the people who follow up because how often do I do this? I'm shopping for something, put a few requests for information in,
right.
couldn't tell you 5 minutes later who I reached out to.
That's right. I know.
It's completely in their court now.
That's right. That's right. And it's frustrating. You'll reach out to five people ready to hand somebody money, and they
You want to
they
get rid of
don't
the money once it
respond.
serves,
You're
and
like, "Will
nobody.
someone take my money?
Yeah,
Please, can somebody take my money? Please, anybody. I just want this thing done." And anyway, and then they'll stop and they'll bounce and they'll take them 6 months to make a decision. But if you're just with them quick, they're ready to spend, right? Anyway, you get the idea. And so I think a lot of people, just to cover something in the shed industry, is it's modernizing. Like people are modernizing right now.
yeah,
Um, and they hear automated follow-up and they automatically assume it's a robot, or they automatically
yeah,
assume it's AI, or they automatically assume it's like a salesy thing. When we build with someone, we're doing white glove. We work with people on the content. We could write it for them, whatever, but they always give us a tone, or they could write it. And if you're writing the content, why would you write a follow-up message that sounds like a robot? Don't do that.
right.
You
Yeah,
have control over it, what it sends.
that's right.
It's
That's
not it's
right.
not Joe's language. It's not Velocity 360 language. It's
Right.
Steve Byler language. What would you say to a new lead? How do you want to
Yeah,
make them feel? You write that, right? It doesn't have to be
that's right.
weird. It could be
Yeah,
literally what you would copy and paste send because you send basically the same thing. except it just happens. And then when
That's
they
right.
reply, you pick up, you know, you pick up the text, you pick up the Facebook message, you pick up the thing. So that's how that's supposed to work. The sales rep needs to pick up on reply, automated messages stop. They start calling and doing their thing and working with them until they get a quote and they close them, whatever, right? So the other campaign that they usually have is people run like discounts or they run whatever. Some people sell on quality as well. So this kind of changes between a monthly touch point versus a promotion. So just keep that in mind. If you're more of a promotion person, great. If you're more of a person who does follow up and updates with your leads and your clients, great. It doesn't have to be a discount every time. The same concept is when you're in front of people, they remember you. People buy more than one shed in their lifetime. They move.
They do. They
You
do.
know, they expand, they do whatever, right? And they should buy from you if they bought from you once. So the idea here is if you do is, buy more, save, sell more, your average package increases about 22%. If you give a 20% discount, your closing rate doubles essentially. And there's all sorts of stats out there. If there's a limited time offer, you can increase urgency, right? And so the
That's
types of
right.
things like a 30-day campaign or a 10-day fire sale, what our system can do is shoot texts and emails and voicemails. And the voicemail is a huge piece of this because it's really the sales rep, like what you would say, or the owner, just dropped. They can't answer, so it's like they can't just like pick up. It just sends it, but it's their voice.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to let you know about our thing that's going on. Really appreciate you, whatever. But it's them. And so it's this
Right.
personal aspect, 'cause that's how it should all feel. It should feel very personal, to get the maximum response rate. And it just happens because but business owners and reps, they can't call thousands of people that they have in their leads database. There's no chance. But you'd love to, and your heart's
Yeah.
there. So let's just package that intent into something that actually happens. Follows up every week via text and email, last 4 days, every day. So those are kind of things that are very helpful. Once they've kind of responded, or maybe they in the first 60 seconds they don't respond, so it auto follows up day 2, days 3 through 7. We're following up with that lead that we got to in 60 seconds, but they haven't responded. Maybe they still haven't responded. We move it to a 75-day campaign, right? And it just keeps following up until they basically respond on that 7 touch points. So even if they don't respond in 60 seconds, our system's still just going to follow up. Your sales rep probably doesn't have to worry about this until they respond, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Yeah.
got their own process. Some people still want them to call. That's up to you guys. We'll set it up however you want. But the point is they don't respond to all of this messaging. It's like they're pretty, you got to wait for them to respond, right? Make sure they're ready, right? But then that means every day your reps just following up with the most important people. And that's where we like to build a pipeline that tracks the, conversions. If they do call, hey, let me call you back. I got your call. That's an important thing. Once they do respond, and again, taking the notes from those calls when you do get them on the phone, right? All tracked and all the messaging and everything's tracked as well. So how that kind of looks and feels on the actual software. So let me see. I'll share let's see, I think I need to share my full screen again. How do I share my full screen? There, desktop. There we go. So I'm gonna go through like how this actually looks. So this is an example of some of the workflows actually happening. So you get a lead, comes in from Facebook, right? You see the icon over there in the top left, and then boom, follows up, right? And if you see the icon, it's text. You can see the icon here is Facebook. There's an email that goes out and so on and so forth, right? That's what it means to have like follow up within 60 seconds. It comes in a minute later, they're getting essentially this follow up. And if you go through, it follows up. That was the first 5 or 6. They get a like. It keeps going because they haven't actually replied. This is all happening. No sales reps doing this. This is just happening. And at some point, you have a response. Boom, they say, I'm looking for this. And that's where the sales rep calls them. They get a notification to call them. Say, hey, I'm looking for a shed I can turn into a baker for my wife. What do you have left of the discounted buildings? That person's going to buy if you get them on the phone.
Yeah.
Right? And that all happened with no sales rep spending time at all. It just happened. Right? It looks like maybe right here, the sales rep got a notification of this and they sent like one message, but it kept following up until there was an actual response, right? And that's like 12 touch points right there.
Yeah.
Most people end at 3. And there's just that revenue is just that person's gonna go with somebody else. And that's how realistic, this is. Like it happens every day in every, organization that I've ever seen and work with. Like that's what they're missing essentially. And then we like to build a couple other pieces here that are really helpful is automate the review process because 89% of the consumers, if you look you up, look at your reviews, decide if they're going to buy or not, if you're
That's right.
blowing smoke, or if you're actually good at what you do. So it's just a simple once they, we integrate with Google or Meta and auto send that to leave you guys a 5-star review if they had it. When you're tracking calls and everything, your ability to ramp up new reps is, decreased by 20%. Your close rates go up because you can train people better. And that all just works together for essentially a win-win partnership for the sales manager owner where your team closes more leads, system runs on autopilot regardless of staff turnover, if they're sick, whatever. You process more leads regardless of anything, and you have complete visibility to train and make better decisions. Your salespeople win because there's more leads that they close. The leads get followed up for them even if they're sick or busy. Better training for managers, and their commission increases, and they have the best process templates, right? That's already been created. They don't have to make things up. So it's win-win that leads to highest conversion possible. And that's what we like to do. We like to keep it simple. We like to stay in our lane. I don't do ads for people. I don't do their website. We don't do any of that. We're sales conversion experts. That's what we do. If you want your leads to convert more, at a higher rate, like that's what we do. And we just work with whoever else you use for your ads, your website, your fulfillment, whatever. We integrate them all together.
Yeah, but pretty much if you have an inbound lead coming, you can capture that inside your software, channel
Exactly.
it to the assigned. And is a lot of that kind of geo-targeted? So
It's up to the company.
there's up to the company how they want to run
This is
that.
when I
Yeah,
say white glove. So white glove, is essentially from the hotel industry where you
yeah,
pull up in your vehicle to the front and somebody's got these white gloves on and they come and open the door for you and they show you where to walk. They take your luggage for you. They park your car. They go take you up, get you a glass of wine as you're on your way up to your suite. They fluff the pillows. They've got a handwritten card on there. That's what white glove means to us. So
right.
it's like, hey, you tell us what you want, show up to a few meetings, read through some content, make sure you integrate the things legally you need to do. But we'll handle everything from communicating with the developers of your ads company or your marketing companies, et cetera, your 3D builder, your fulfillment software, whatever. We'll make sure everything works. And you just
Yeah,
need to tell us how your preference is essentially.
yeah. And I would note this is again, Joe, you and I talked about this a bit early before the webinar. Um, it's helpful while you can assist a company getting clarity on what their kind of sales process, sales strategy is. They do have to have one. They have to be clear on what that is in order to convert it into a software. But you can help them a bit in that development process as well to be sure that the process seems reasonable.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I mean, if you have revenue, you have a strategy. So articulating that's different than like just having it in your head, of course.
Correct.
But this essentially is what you should be doing to maximize sales conversion. Um, what you want your people to say is scripting that you should figure out. But the beauty again of having a system like this is you can export the transcript, use AI, and start creating scripts if you don't have them. So,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say all I care about is people's revenue growing. And so, if you follow up better, your revenue will grow. You can catch up the scripting because you'll see certain sales reps not closing as much as others. Work with
Correct.
them, get together on a weekly meeting, figure out what they're saying, build a script, train everybody, right? On that, you can actually upload scripts into the platform and it's right there as they're on a phone call. They can run through the script, right? So these to me are not, you have to have this before that or this before that. It's like, no, no, no. Look, business is organic and always living. You need both. And the reality is you have limited time. So grow revenue to get more of your time, spend more of your time building improved systems that increases conversion. There's a human component, there's a system and software component, and you need both to win at scale.
Yeah. So where do you see the biggest challenges? And not necessarily just with Velocity 360, but kind of generally speaking, a company tries to implement their first CRM. What do you see as the big challenges they often face?
Sure, yeah. You don't want to have rose-colored glasses. So in the industry, like when we set off to build the software, so what we did prior to this, we did sales systems consulting. It used to be called Knowledge Gap Consulting. It's actually how I got in the industry was I was doing podcasts and cold emailed Shannon Latham over at Shed Geek, and he was the only person to respond. And I jumped on there and talked about sales because like, man, there's a sales conversion problem in the industry. I was like, okay. He ended up, doing two podcasts, and then he sent me Secure Storage Sheds, which is our first client that I was just kind of going over the general build with. And yeah, they had great success, and that led us to Shed Pro and Dutch Boy Barnes grew 25% in 3 months, and then Shed Expo, and now we're kind of, full circle now. But essentially, all of the clients we work with a big manufacturer out of Indiana, and they invented this abrasive that you spray on like a naval battleship to get, rust or whatever off of. But if you breathed it, you didn't get cancer. And they were losing revenue because all of the big players were saying that their stuff was bad. And we came in and we took them from 3.8 million to 6.3 million in 13 months. We said, well, listen, that's an objection and that's not real, right? Okay, here's
Yeah.
how you sell and market against that. And they would have grown even more if they had a better CRM. And we're like, wait, this is a huge problem. And people can't afford the type of consulting at that level. It's too expensive. It's a lot.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're like, how can we help the most people and basically also not be the product that limits the growth of the business? And so that's when we came up with the CRM, the sales CRM solution for the shed industry. It's from actually doing it on clients, and leading to this. So yeah, but basically people have rose-colored glasses. The way we want to do the company is instead of 88% of our CRM implementations failing, which is the industry average, we want to have 90% plus of ours work. Okay.
Yeah.
So rose-colored glasses is they don't tell their team we're using this and they expect it to magically fix everything and be perfect. Like there's no software that's perfect and everybody
Right.
has to learn things. And like I said, it's not
That's
a
right.
magic wand. Look, if your salespeople don't call leads, you have a bigger problem. The software's not going to solve that. You need to
Right.
find different staff who's going to call them or train them to call them, right? Like you have to solve that problem. We can get the first response. We can't make your salespeople do the things. There's two parts of it. It's not going to solve every problem. Can it solve a lot of problems and really simplify things and make things more efficient and get you responses and make sure the leads? Absolutely. It'll do all of that, right? But you've got to
Yeah.
train the team and you know your team. And so if you have 12 team members and 9 of them, aren't going to use the CRM because they're old school, that's fine. Assign all the leads to your 3 digital people and you'll
Right.
maximize conversion, right? So it's
Yeah.
figuring out how it's going to fit into your company. You know best. And you have to articulate that to us and we can give you recommendations. But if people aren't calling your leads the first 2 weeks you give them to them, I would be assigning them to the people who are going to call them because you're spending
Right.
good money and good time on it. And those leads are expecting a response. And so out of being an Integris company, you ought to follow up with them. And
Yeah.
also from a standpoint, a financial standpoint, it's really not fair to you as a business owner, as a sales manager, for those leads to be going to people who aren't going to work them. Right. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say. Those are the hardest things is people just getting used to the tech. I always tell people, look, it's going to take 30 days. Your people are going to be like, where do you button click, for about 30 days. They're going to be lost. They're going to be
Yeah.
frustrated. You're going to have issues of people being like, do I have to use this? And your answer has to be, yes, you do.
Right.
You
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
have
You've
to
got
use
to
this.
you've got to be committed
Yes, it's a
to a
commitment thing.
full deep implementation of the CRM.
That's right. You'll get zero value from any software if you don't
Right.
enforce that it gets used. If you enforce that it gets used, you'll have success like Secure Storage and Dutch Boy
Yeah.
Barnes and all of these other clients that we're now working with. You will have it. But the one common thing is that we help simplify and do everything for you because that part in itself is so exhausting, people give up. And the
Correct.
second part is the commitment from the other side. Because if they can just make their people use it and help get them excited, because the way that this is supposed to work is it's supposed to make the sales jobs easier. They're supposed to make more money. And if you
That's right.
explain it that way versus, hey, listen, guys, you got to learn a new software. Listen, I know it sucks, but look, guys, this is going to follow up with leads, and you're just talking to the interested people now.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. Then it's worth doing.
People who've already raised their hands and said
That's
we're
right.
interested
It's
in your
that
products.
sales rep is now excited to learn your software. So it's how you deliver
Yeah.
it as well. Right. So
So
anyway, those are the kind of main things.
yeah, a couple of observations here. I work with several software companies as an EOS implementer. And one of their big pain points is when they create a software product for a client and then it fails in the implementation or in the usage, it
Right.
fails in its implementation inside the company. And almost without fail, it's not the software itself,
Right.
it's how it has been rolled out.
Right.
And one of the things is people feel like this tool is being done to them rather than for them.
That's
And
right.
you grab that very nicely. This is a tool, sales reps, to help you win at a level you're not winning presently. And not everybody, let's be honest, not everybody wants to win in that way. So they may not be a great
Absolutely.
fit for the role. But you can build a team that runs it well, if even if not all your individual reps, get good at it. The second component is, and this is my own experience now coming through in trying to implement CRMs, in my shed company back over the years. Started my first one, in the late 90s, trying to track uh, clients and keep data stuff lined up. And that is actually getting the service to get the email, get the content in right, to get the sequence, to get the triggers, to get all that stuff set up correctly. And one of the softwares I used in the mid 2000s, what, 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in there, we jokingly ended up calling it Confusionsoft
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we invested a
Infusionsoft.
huge sum of money in the software, monthly recurring fees, and then we had to hire a third party to help set up all of our sequencing. And we were in, and it still wasn't working, but so well. It was transformative, but it was so cumbersome. And so you're solving that problem with your white glove service. And that white glove service really does the good interview, gathers the content from the clients that they need. So you set it up into a good solid sequence based on their basic strategy. And then it comes down to basic leadership. Can I sell this? Because leaders are selling to their people all the time. Can I sell this to my sales reps? Can I bring transparency enough to the process that I can hold them accountable for the execution of actually following up with the leads? It has to yield results. It just has to yield results when both of those are in place.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a two-way street, but again, the upside, right? The growth of the revenue is absolutely worth the pain. It will be
Correct.
it will be pain. You'll have to get organized. You'll have to like work through it with your team, right? And explain it. But I would say it's worthy of the pain. If revenue
Yeah.
growth isn't worth the pain, I'm not sure what is in most businesses.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
and
gonna
and just
drop I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I'm dropping the link in the chat for everybody if they want
oh,
to
perfect.
bookmark the
Perfect.
CRM blueprint, so that way they have time because I know we're running kind of close
Yeah.
here.
We're
And I will just say if anybody wants to just chat through their current system or process, there's a section on there where you can just click and book some time with me where you'll tell me about your system. I've got like a little questionnaire of, oh, okay, like this is what I'd recommend you probably do. And inevitably those are people might ask about velocity and might want a demo, which is totally fine, by the way. We'll definitely schedule that, but that's totally free. And, we used to charge a bunch to do things like that. But if it's helpful, someone asks one-on-one questions, feel free to book some time.
okay. Excellent. So we got just a couple questions here as we wrap up. Feel free to drop any questions. If you're on the call here, want to drop a question in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll get to you. So, Rebecca, where do we start with questions?
Yes, so we have actually already had quite a few really good questions coming through. First one is from Marvin Raber. This is kind of a two-part question. First one is, can you import data from HubSpot? And the second part is, how much does white glove approach cost?
Yeah, yeah. Question number one is we're open API, so we can integrate with anything on Zapier, Make.com, or have API documentation. And yes, we can import from HubSpot. So a migration, if someone has a CRM and they want to move to Velocity at any point, we'll move everything, their contacts, email templates, if they have workflows they have built, anything like that, we can import into Velocity or move it manually, migrate for you. Or we could integrate. So with most platforms, if you want to keep that software as well. How much does white glove approach cost? It really depends on the size of your business and what the migration might be. If you're coming from a different software, it can definitely be more than this. But I always tell people it's like a small shed. It's like not that crazy for most companies. The entire white glove process might be 56.75 or something like that, where we just literally handle literally everything. And people are like, oh, a small shed to sell many more sheds. Like it's not that crazy
Yeah.
of a build where we just deal with everything for them. So that would be the answers to those questions. And there's a scope of work in that. Like we don't go like edit all of your Excel sheets. Like there's a limit, to what we do. But when it comes to setting everything up, all your workflows custom to your business, like that's generally, there's a subscription cost and things like that as well. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, we've got another one from Stephanie McCarty. She's asking, or she says, I don't have a platform to get leads. Which one do you suggest that works best with the shed company?
Yeah, like staying in my lane, I definitely wouldn't say like I'm an ad expert for the shed industry. Everything's got their ups and downs. So it's all strategy, right? So what kind of leads do you want to work with? You can lead capture, you can try to get a message, you can send them to your website. It comes down to a data conversion, metric. So if your website converts really well, then you want to do Google Ads. But if you don't have any idea, then you probably want to test. I'd recommend trying some things out, looking at the data, rinse and repeating if you're doing it yourself, or finding a good ads company who are great at website conversion. I wouldn't say I'm the
Yeah,
best person to ask that for.
and could I just add to that?
Yes.
So, and I don't know where Stephanie McCarthy's coming from, but often there's you're running a shed lot, and your number one source of leads currently is inbound phone calls or drive-ins. You actually want to have a good CRM system to capture that data to put it in to be sure that you follow up with drive-ins and call-ins as well. So you don't have to have a digital ad source to start implementing a CRM. Is that you're underutilizing it probably, but you do need to find a way to start capturing wherever your leads are coming from currently. Is that fair, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it depends on the question is, but yeah, if you ads do seem to work pretty well in the shed industry.
Right.
So I wouldn't be afraid of ads. I think I see lots of them get converted with our clients.
Correct.
But you have to capture them in some way. So you're either capturing them from the messaging your Facebook business page. By the way, if you're not using Facebook business page, you're using a profile. You can't automate with a profile. Meta has like limitations there. So be
Yeah.
using your business page that you drive ads to. Um, if you get their phone and email, like if you have that info, then you can do a lot with it. So, lead forms can be quite helpful on Facebook if you're going to run one, or of course, having something on your website like a 3D configurator. We do see like
Correct.
Shed Pro leads, close, three to five times higher than a Meta lead. So I'm a big
Yeah.
fan. Shed Pro guys, and they're great to work with. I know everybody's got their opinions about these different companies, but that's just like what we've seen on our analytics. We do work with, of course, Idea Room and different things like that.
Right.
But we just don't have enough data on all of them yet to know.
Sure.
But 3D configurator in general performs well.
Okay. Anything else, Rebecca? Here's we wrap up. We're down to a minute or less.
We do have one. This seems like a simple one, so I'll go ahead and toss this your way. Marvin has another question asking, can the CRM delegate leads based on zip codes?
Yeah, really easy. We do that basically with every single client that we work with. They have some sort of, they have different lots in different areas, and so they've got a list of zip codes that they want to go to certain sales reps. Yeah, turnkey, ready to go. Just give us your zip codes. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us here today. Appreciate your time. And again, I'm not here unequivocally recommending Velocity 360, but it's one of the best I've seen in recent days. So really excited about what you're doing and wish you great success there. And thanks for bringing success to the shed industry, Joe. And
Yeah.
then just a reminder to our listeners, this will be on YouTube if you want to go back and revisit it, capture more information, hear some things over again, should be up within about 24 hours. Our next webinar is coming up January the 5th, so just after the new year at 12 noon Eastern. You should be seeing some emails about that coming out soon. Thanks for joining us here again today. Thank you again, Joe, for being with us. And to all of you, hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a happy new year and much success in the new year.